Now, let's drift off to sleep. Today, you'll be falling asleep during a thunderstorm inside of a cozy camper trailer next to a lake in the mountains. Imagine you are feeling exhausted, hot, and sweaty as you return to your camper. You've just conquered your long-held dream of hiking to the very summit of Moonrest Mountain. You've changed into your swimsuit and are now standing at the edge of the dock on weary, trembling legs, ready to celebrate your incredible achievement with a refreshing dive into the cool, crystal-clear waters of Silver Lake. With your arms raised above your head and ready to dive in, you glance at the slow-moving dark clouds on the horizon. Beads of sweat are still clinging to your forehead when you push off the dock and soar through the air before gliding perfectly into the water. The crisp, cool water envelops you, gently massaging your entire being. You can almost taste the clean, mineral freshness of the water as it washes away all the sweat, dust, and grime from your skin. While breathing in deeply, you are met with the glorious sense of renewal. You feel utterly refreshed and rejuvenated. You swim back to the dock and climb the cool aluminum ladder. Then, standing there with a soft cotton towel draped around your shoulders, you gaze out across the deep blue lake. Here and there, motorboats, canoes, sailboats, and jet skis are now headed towards the shores. Everyone knows rain is coming. Kids wearing life vests and learning how to water ski are hoisted back into boats, and the small, colorful sails of dinghies flutter in the breeze as their little suntanned captains point them back towards land. Now, all toweled off and feeling a little bit chilled, you walk barefoot back to your camper ahead of the rain. At the little picnic table, you collect your book, coffee mug, and sunglasses. You gather up other items and place them into a plastic tote. A salt and pepper shaker, a box of wooden matches, some paper plates. You secure the lid on the tote and move the Coleman lantern under the table. At the fire pit, you fold up your camping chair and tuck it below the protective cover of a tall ponderosa pine. Then you return to your camper, open the door, and step inside. In the little kitchenette, you set water to boil for tea. And then you change into your favorite, coziest leisure wear. while the hot tea steeps, you settle at the quaint table and gaze out the window, watching as boats reach the shore and families hurry off to their campers and tents and cabins. Now, with a warm cup of tea in hand and nestled in your soft, comfy clothes, you feel your body slowly warming again. You bring the mug to your lips. The fragrant steam curls around your face as you take a tiny sip. The tea is smooth, rich, and the perfect temperature. You take a bigger sip, and the tea flows down to your core, melting away the chill from the lake. A rush of warmth spreads throughout your body, like a wave of little goosebumps, and you're suddenly filled with a sense of deep accomplishment, peace, and satisfaction. Now, as you sit here at Silver Lake, let's prepare for sleep. First, close your eyes and simply become aware of your breathing, feeling your chest gently rise and fall again. Next, let's take a few deeper breaths. We will slowly fill our lungs with the cool, sweet scent of pine trees and that fresh mountain air. And then, after holding briefly, we will let it all go and exhale. Ready? Breathe in deeply, hold for 3, 2, 1, and then exhale. One more time. Breathe in deeply, hold for 3, 2, 1, and exhale. And try thinking to yourself, as I am here at Silver Lake, I can feel gravity pulling me back towards Earth. With every exhale, I can feel the slow rotation of Earth and the Earth's steady movement around the sun. I can feel my tired feet, my ankles, my fatigued calves, my knees, and my legs becoming heavier and heavier and more relaxed. You finish the last sip of your perfect tea, and then you pick up a little pencil and notebook resting on the table. With them in hand, you make your way to the sleeping nook at the other end of the camper, where you collapse heavily into the soft, wide bed. After the long, steep hike up Moonrest Mountain, the bed feels like a soft cloud beneath your tired body. The little windows by the bed are cracked open, and your nostrils catch the pleasant scent of fresh rain on pine needles and moss. You look at your notepad and observe your to-do list. Each completed task is neatly crossed out with pencil. At the bottom of the page is one final entry on this list. A smile creeps across your face as you take the pencil and begin scribbling over that last item: climb Moonrest Mountain. You set the notepad aside, thinking how perfect everything feels at this moment. You've completed everything you set out to do here. Tomorrow holds no obligations, and for now, everything is done, finished, and complete. You have earned this wonderful moment of absolute peace. Your body sinks deeper into the soft bed. Every muscle relaxes from the tips of your fingers to the soles of your tired feet as you surrender to the peace and calm and take in the rich mountain air. Let's take a few more deep breaths before drifting off to sleep. Ready? Breathe in deeply, hold for 3, 2, 1, and then exhale. One more time. Breathe in deeply, hold for 3, 2, 1, and exhale. Try thinking to yourself, as I lay here at Silver Lake, I can feel gravity pulling me back towards Earth. With every exhale, I experience my body feeling heavier and heavier and more relaxed. I can feel my tired arms, my hands, my torso, shoulders, neck, and head becoming heavier and more relaxed. My whole body feels at peace as gravity's pull tugs me gently and tucks me safely into this ever so soft bed. Now, feeling oh so satisfied, safe, accomplished, rejuvenated, sleepy, and happy, you reach over to a little transistor radio, tune it to your favorite station, then lay back and close your eyes.
In tonight's reading from the Journal of the First Voyage of Columbus, we join the Admiral during his final days at sea, from Friday, February 15th through Friday, March 15th, 1493. As land draws near, his thoughts turn homeward, toward the Spanish court, the voyage just completed, and the lands and people left behind. Through stormy winds and brief moments of calm, Columbus documents his passage with gratitude and resolve, preparing for what lies ahead. Following the journal entries, we'll hear two important letters written by Columbus himself. One addressed to Luis de Santángel, the royal treasurer who helped fund the voyage, and another to their highnesses Ferdinand and Isabella, offering plans for the colonization and commerce of Española. Journal of the First Voyage of Columbus. Friday, 15th of February. Last night, after sunset, the sky began to clear toward the west, showing that the wind was inclined to come from that quarter. The Admiral added the bonnet to the mainsail. The sea was still very high, although it had gone down slightly. They steered east-northeast and went 4 miles an hour, which made 13 leagues during the 11 hours of the night. After sunrise, they sighted land. It appeared from the bows to bear east-northeast. Some said it was the island of Madeira, others that it was the rock of Sintra in Portugal, near Lisbon. Presently the wind headed to east-northeast, and a heavy sea came from the west, the caravel being 5 leagues from the land. The Admiral found by his reckoning that he was close to the Azores, and believed that this was one of them. The pilots and sailors thought it was the land of Castile. Saturday, 16th of February. All that night, the Admiral was standing off and on to keep clear of the land, which they now knew to be an island, sometimes standing northeast, at others north-northeast, until sunrise, when they tacked to the south to reach the island, which was now concealed by a great mist. Another island was in sight from the poop, at a distance of 8 leagues. Afterwards, from sunrise until dark, they were tacking to reach the land against a strong wind and head sea. At the time of repeating the salve, which is just before dark, some of the men saw a light to leeward, and it seemed that it must be on the island they first saw yesterday. All night they were beating to windward and going as near as they could, so as to see some way to the island at sunrise. That night the Admiral got a little rest, for he had not slept nor been able to sleep since Wednesday, and he had lost the use of his legs from long exposure to the wet and cold. At sunrise he steered south-southwest and reached the island at night, but could not make out what island it was, owing to the thick weather. Monday, 18th of February. Yesterday, after sunset, the Admiral was sailing round the island to see where he could anchor and open communications. He let go one anchor, which he presently lost, and then stood off and on all the night. After sunrise, he again reached the north side of the island, where he anchored and sent the boat on shore. They had speech with the people, and found that it was the island of Santa Maria, one of the Azores. They pointed out the port to which the caravel should go. They said that they had never seen such stormy weather as there had been for the last 15 days, and they wondered how the caravel could have escaped. They gave many thanks to God, and showed great joy at the news that the Admiral had discovered the Indies. The Admiral says that his navigation had been very certain, and that he had laid his route down on the chart. Many thanks were due to our Lord, although there had been some delay. But he was sure that he was in the region of the Azores, and that this was one of them. He pretended to have gone over more ground to mislead the pilots and mariners who pricked off the charts, in order that he might remain master of that route to the Indies, as in fact he did. For none of the others kept an accurate reckoning, so that no one but himself could be sure of the route to the Indies. Tuesday, 19th of February. After sunset, 3 natives of the island came to the beach and hailed. The Admiral sent the boat, which returned with fowls and fresh bread. It was carnival time, and they brought other things which were sent by the captain of the island, named Juan de Castañeda, saying that he knew the Admiral very well, and that he did not come to see him, because it was night, but that at dawn he would come with more refreshments, bringing with him 3 men of the boat's crew, whom he did not send back, owing to the great pleasure he derived from hearing their account of the voyage. The Admiral ordered much respect to be shown to the messengers, and that they should be given beds to sleep in that night, because it was late, and the town was far off. As on the previous Thursday, when they were in the midst of the storm, they had made a vow to go in procession to a church of Our Lady. As soon as they came to land, the Admiral arranged that half the crew should go to comply with their obligation to a small chapel, like a hermitage, near the shore, and that he would himself go afterwards with the rest. believing that it was a peaceful land and confiding in the offers of the captain of the island and in the peace that existed between Spain and Portugal, he asked the three men to go to the town and arrange for a priest to come and say Mass. The half of the crew then went in their shirts in compliance with their vow. While they were at their prayers, all the people of the town, horse and foot, with the captain at their head, came and took them all prisoners. The admiral, suspecting nothing, was waiting for the boat to take him and the rest to accomplish the vow. At 11 o'clock, seeing that they did not come back, he feared that they had been detained or that the boat had been swamped, all the island being surrounded by high rocks. He could not see what had taken place, because the hermitage was round a point. He got up the anchor and made sail until he was in full view of the hermitage, and he saw many of the horsemen dismount and get into the boat with arms. They came to the caravel to seize the admiral. The captain stood up in the boat and asked for an assurance of safety from the admiral, who replied that he granted it. But what outrage was this, that he saw none of his people in the boat? The admiral added that they might come on board, and that he would do all that might be proper. The admiral tried with fair words to get hold of this captain, that he might recover his own people, not considering that he broke faith by giving him security, because he had offered peace and security, and had then broken his word. The captain, as he came with an evil intention, would not come on board. Seeing that he did not come alongside, the admiral asked that he might be told the reason for the detention of his men, an act which would displease the King of Portugal, because the Portuguese received much honor in the territories of the King of Castile, and were as safe as if they were in Lisbon. He further said that the sovereigns had given him letters of recommendation to all the lords and princes of the world, which he would show the captain if he would come on board, that he was the admiral of the ocean sea and viceroy of the Indies, which belonged to their highnesses, and that he would show the commissions signed with their signatures and attested by their seals, which he held up from a distance. He added that his sovereigns were in friendship and amity with the King of Portugal, and had ordered that all honor should be shown to ships that came from Portugal. Further, that if the captain did not surrender his people, he would still go on to Castile, as he had quite sufficient to navigate as far as Seville, in which case the captain and his followers would be severely punished for their offense. Then the captain and those with him replied that they did not know the King and Queen of Castile there, nor their letters, nor were they afraid of them, and they would give the admiral to understand that this was Portugal, almost menacing him. On hearing this, the admiral was much moved, thinking that some cause of disagreement might have arisen between the two kingdoms during his absence, yet he could not endure that they should not be answered reasonably. Afterwards he turned to the captain and said that he should go to the port with the caravel, and that all that had been done would be reported to the king his lord. The admiral made those who were in the caravel bear witness to what he said, calling to the captain and all the others, and promising that he would not leave the caravel until 100 Portuguese had been taken to Castile, and all that island had been laid waste. He then returned to anchor in the port where he was first, the wind being very unfavorable for doing anything else. Wednesday, 20th of February. The admiral ordered the ship to be repaired and the casks to be filled alongside for ballast. This was a very bad port, and he feared he might have to cut the cables. This was so, and he made sail for the island of San Miguel. But there is no good port in any of the Azores for the weather they then experienced, and there was no other remedy but to go to sea. Thursday, 21st of February. Yesterday, the admiral left that island of Santa Maria for that of San Miguel to see if a port could be found to shelter his vessel from the bad weather. There was much wind and a high sea, and he was sailing until night without being able to see either one land or the other, owing to the thick weather caused by wind and sea. The admiral says he was in much anxiety because he only had 3 sailors who knew their business, the rest knowing nothing of seamanship. He was lying to all that night in great danger and trouble. Our Lord showed him mercy, and that the waves came in one direction, for if there had been a cross sea, they would have suffered much more. After sunrise, the island of San Miguel was not in sight, so the admiral determined to return to Santa Maria to see if he could recover his people and boat and the anchors and cables he had left there. The admiral says that he was astonished at the bad weather he encountered in the region of these islands. In the Indies, he had navigated throughout the winter without the necessity for anchoring, and always had fine weather, never having seen the sea for a single hour in such a state that it could not be navigated easily. But among these islands, he had suffered from such terrible storms. The same had happened in going out as far as the Canary Islands, but as soon as they were passed, there was always fine weather, both in sea and air. In concluding these remarks, he observes that the sacred theologians and wise men said well when they placed the terrestrial paradise in the far east, because it is a most temperate region. Hence these lands that he had now discovered must, he says, be in the extreme east. Friday, 22nd of February. Yesterday the admiral anchored off Santa Maria, in the place or port where he had first anchored. Presently a man came down to some rocks at the edge of the beach, signaling that they were not to go away. Soon afterwards the boat came with 5 sailors, 2 priests, and a scrivener. They asked for safety, and when it was granted by the admiral, they came on board, and as it was night, they slept on board, the admiral showing them all the civility he could. In the morning, they asked to be shown the authority of the sovereigns of Castile, by which the voyage had been made. The admiral felt that they did this to give some color of right to what they had done, and to show that they had right on their side. As they were unable to secure the person of the admiral, whom they intended to get into their power when they came with the boat armed, they now feared that their game might not turn out so well, thinking, with some fear, of what the admiral had threatened and which he proposed to put into execution. In order to get his people released, the admiral displayed the general letter of the sovereigns to all princes and lords and other documents, and having given them of what he had, the Portuguese went on shore satisfied and presently released all the crew and the boat. The admiral heard from them that if he had been captured also, they never would have been released, for the captain said that those were the orders of the king his lord. Saturday, 23rd of February. Yesterday the weather began to improve, and the admiral got under way to seek a better anchorage where he could take in wood and stones for ballast, but he did not find one until the hour of compline. Sunday, 24th of February. He anchored yesterday in the afternoon to take in wood and stones, but the sea was so rough that they could not land from the boat, and during the first watch it came on to blow from the west and southwest. He ordered sail to be made, owing to the great danger there is off these islands in being at anchor with a southerly gale, and as the wind was southwest, it would go round to south. As it was a good wind for Castile, he gave up his intention of taking in wood and stones, and shaped an easterly course until sunset, going 7 miles an hour for 6 hours and a half, equal to 45.5 miles. After sunset, he made 6 miles an hour, or 66 miles in 11 hours, altogether 111 miles, equal to 28 leagues. Monday, 25th of February. Yesterday, after sunset, the caravel went at the rate of 5 miles an hour on an easterly course, and in the 11 hours of the night, she made 65 miles, equal to 16 1/4 leagues. From sunrise to sunset, they made another 16.5 leagues with a smooth sea, thanks be to God. A very large bird, like an eagle, came to the caravel. Tuesday, 26th of February. Yesterday night, the caravel steered her course in a smooth sea, thanks be to God. Most of the time she was going 8 miles an hour and made 100 miles, equal to 25 leagues. After sunrise, there was little wind and some rain showers. They made about 8 leagues east-northeast. Wednesday, 27th of February. During the night and day, she was off her course owing to contrary winds and a heavy sea. She was found to be 125 leagues from Cape St. Vincent and 80 from the island of Madeira, 106 from Santa Maria. It was very troublesome to have such bad weather just when they were at the very door of their home. Thursday, 28th of February. The same weather during the night, with the wind from south and southeast, sometimes shifting to northeast and east-northeast, and it was the same all day. Friday, 1st of March. Tonight the course was east-northeast, and they made 12 leagues. During the day, 23.5 leagues on the same course. Saturday, 2nd of March. The course was east-northeast, and distance made good 28 leagues during the night and 20 in the day. Sunday, 3rd of March. After sunset, the course was east, but a squall came down, split all the sails, and the vessel was in great danger. But God was pleased to deliver them. They drew lots for sending a pilgrim in a shirt to Santa Maria de la Cinta at Huelva, and the lot fell on the admiral. The whole crew also made a vow to fast on bread and water during the first Saturday after their arrival in the port. They had made 60 miles before the sails were split. Afterwards they ran under bare poles, owing to the force of the gale and the heavy sea. They saw signs of the neighborhood of land, finding themselves near Lisbon. Monday, 4th of March. During the night they were exposed to a terrible storm, expecting to be overwhelmed by the cross seas, while the wind seemed to raise the caravel into the air, and there was rain and lightning in several directions. The admiral prayed to our Lord to preserve them, and in the first watch it pleased our Lord to show land, which was reported by the sailors. As it was advisable not to reach it before it was known whether there was any port to which he could run for shelter, the admiral set the mainsail, as there was no other course but to proceed, though in great danger. Thus God preserved them until daylight, though all the time they were in infinite fear and trouble. When it was light, the admiral knew the land, which was the rock of Sintra, near the river of Lisbon, and he resolved to run in, because there was nothing else to be done. So terrible was the storm, that in the village of Cascais, at the mouth of the river, the people were praying for the little vessel all that morning. After they were inside, the people came off, looking upon their escape as a miracle. At the 3rd hour, they passed Rastelo within the river of Lisbon, where they were told that such a winter with so many storms had never before been known, and that 25 ships had been lost in Flanders, while others had been windbound in the river for 4 months. Presently the admiral wrote to the King of Portugal, who was then at a distance of 9 leagues, to state that the sovereigns of Castile had ordered him to enter the ports of His Highness, and ask for what he required for payment, and requesting that the king would give permission for the caravel to come to Lisbon, because some ruffians, hearing that he had much gold on board, might attempt a robbery in an unfrequented port, knowing that they did not come from Guinea, but from the Indies. Tuesday, 5th of March. Today the great ship of the King of Portugal was also at anchor off Rastelo, with the best provision of artillery and arms that the admiral had ever seen. The master of her, named Bartolome Diaz of Lisbon, came in an armed boat to the caravel, and ordered the admiral to get into the boat to go and give an account of himself to the agents of the king and to the captain of that ship. The admiral replied that he was the admiral of the sovereigns of Castile, and that he would not give an account to any such persons, nor would he leave the ship except by force, as he had not the power to resist. The master replied that he must then send the master of the caravel. The admiral answered that neither the master nor any other person should go except by force, for if he allowed anyone to go, it would be as if he went himself, and that such was the custom of the admirals of the sovereigns of Castile, rather to die than to submit, or to let any of their people submit. The master then moderated his tone, and told the admiral that if that was his determination, he might do as he pleased. He, however, requested that he might be shown the letters of the kings of Castile, if they were on board. The admiral readily showed them, and the master returned to the ship and reported what had happened to the captain, named Alvaro Dama. That officer, making great festival with trumpets and drums, came to the caravel to visit the admiral, and offered to do all that he might require. Wednesday, 6th of March. As soon as it was known that the admiral came from the Indies, it was wonderful how many people came from Lisbon to see him and the Indians, giving thanks to our Lord and saying that the Heavenly Majesty had given all this to the sovereigns of Castile as a reward for their faith and their great desire to serve God. Thursday, 7th of March. Today an immense number of people came to the caravel, including many knights, and amongst them the agents of the king, and all gave infinite thanks to our Lord for so wide an increase of Christianity granted by our Lord to the sovereigns of Castile. And they said that they received it because their highnesses had worked and labored for the increase of the religion of Christ. Friday, 8th of March. Today the admiral received a letter from the King of Portugal, brought by Don Martin de Noronha, asking him to visit him where he was, as the weather was not suitable for the departure of the caravel. He complied to prevent suspicion, although he did not wish to go, and went to pass the night at Sacandé. The king had given orders to his officers that all that the admiral, his crew, and the caravel were in need of should be given without payment, and that all the admiral wanted should be complied with. Saturday, 9th of March. Today the admiral left Sacandé to go where the king was residing, which was at Valparaiso, 9 leagues from Lisbon. Owing to the rain, he did not arrive until night. The king caused him to be received very honorably by the principal officers of his household, and the king himself received the admiral with great favor, making him sit down and talking very pleasantly. He offered to give orders that everything should be done for the service of the sovereigns of Castile, and said that the successful termination of the voyage had given him great pleasure. He said further that he understood that in the capitulation between the sovereigns and himself, that conquest belonged to him. The admiral replied that he had not seen the capitulation, nor knew more than that the sovereigns had ordered him not to go either to La Mina or to any other port of Guinea, and that this had been ordered to be proclaimed in all the ports of Andalusia before he sailed. The king graciously replied that he held it for certain that there would be no necessity for any arbitrators. The admiral was assigned as a guest to the prior of Clato, who was the principal person in that place, and from whom he received many favors and civilities. Sunday, 10th of March. Today, after Mass, the king repeated that if the admiral wanted anything, he should have it. He conversed much with the admiral respecting his voyage, always ordering him to sit down and treating him with great favor. Monday, 11th of March. Today the admiral took leave of the king, who entrusted him with some messages to the sovereigns, and always treating him with much friendliness. He departed after dinner, Don Martin de Noronha being sent with him, and all the knights set out with him, and went with him some distance, to do him honor. Afterwards he came to a monastery of San Antonio, near a place called Villafranca, where the queen was residing. The admiral went to do her reverence and to kiss her hand, because she had sent to say that he was not to go without seeing her. The duke and the marquise were with her, and the admiral was received with much honor. He departed at night and went to sleep at Landra. Tuesday, 12th of March. Today, as he was leaving Landra to return to the caravel, an esquire of the king arrived with an offer that if he desired to go to Castile by land, that he should be supplied with lodgings and beasts and all that was necessary. When the admiral took a leave of him, he ordered a mule to be supplied to him, and another for his pilot, who was with him, and he says that the pilot received a present of 20 espadines. He said this that the sovereigns might know all that was done, He arrived on board the caravel that night. Wednesday, 13th of March. Today at 8 o'clock with the flood tide and the wind north-northwest, the Admiral got underway and made sail for Seville. Thursday, 14th of March. Yesterday, after sunset, a southerly course was steered, and before sunrise they were off Cape St. Vincent, which is in Portugal. Afterwards he shaped a course to the east for Saltese, and went on all day with little wind, until now that the ship is off Furon. Friday, 15th of March. Yesterday, after sunset, she went on her course with little wind, and at sunrise she was off Saltese. At noon, with the tide rising, they crossed the bar of Saltese and reached the port, which they had left on the 3rd of August of the year before. The Admiral says that so ends this journal, unless it becomes necessary to go to Barcelona by sea, having received news that their Highnesses are in that city, to give an account of all his voyage which our Lord had permitted him to make, and saw fit to set forth in him. For assuredly he held with a firm and strong knowledge that his high majesty made all things good, and that all is good except sin. Nor can he value or think of anything being done without his consent. I know respecting this voyage, says the Admiral, that he has miraculously shown his will, as may be seen from this journal, setting forth the numerous miracles that have been displayed in the voyage, and in me, who was so long at the court of your Highnesses, working in opposition to and against the opinions of so many chief persons of your household, who were all against me, looking upon this enterprise as folly. But I hope in our Lord that it will be a great benefit to Christianity, for so it has ever appeared. These are the final words of the Admiral Don Cristobal Colon respecting his first voyage to the Indies and their discovery. Letter from Columbus to Luis de Santángel. Sir, as I know that you will have pleasure from the great victory which our Lord hath given me in my voyage, I write you this, by which you shall know that in 33 days I passed over to the Indies with the fleet which the most illustrious King and Queen, our Lords, gave me, where I found very many islands peopled with inhabitants beyond number, and of them all I have taken possession for their Highnesses, with proclamation and the royal standard displayed, and I was not gainsaid. To the first which I found I gave the name San Salvador in commemoration of his high majesty, who marvelously have given all this. The Indians call it Guanahon. The second I named the island of Santa Maria de Concepcion, the third Ferrandina, the fourth Fair Island, the fifth La Isla Juana, and so for each one a new name. When I reached Juana, I followed its coast westwardly, and found it so large that I thought it might be mainland, the province of Cathay. And as I did not thus find any towns and villages on the sea-coast, save small hamlets with the people whereof I could not get speech, because they all fled away forthwith, I went on further in the same direction, thinking I should not miss of great cities or towns. And at the end of many leagues, seeing that there was no change, and that the coast was bearing me northwards, whereunto my desire was contrary, since the winter was already confronting us, I formed the purpose of making from thence to the south. And as the wind also blew against me, I determined not to wait for other weather, and turned back as far as a port agreed upon, from which I sent 2 men into the country to learn if there were a king, or any great cities. They traveled for 3 days, and found innumerable small villages, and a numberless population, but not of ruling authority. Wherefore they returned. I understood sufficiently from other Indians whom I had already taken, that this land, in its continuousness, was an island, and so I followed its coast eastwardly for 107 leagues as far as where it terminated. From which headland I saw another island to the east, 18 leagues distant from this, to which I at once gave the name La Española. and I proceeded thither and followed the northern coast, as with La Juana, eastwardly for 188 great leagues in a direct easterly course, as with La Juana, the which and all the others are most fertile to an excessive degree, and this extremely so. In it there are many havens on the sea-coast, incomparable with any others that I know in Christendom, and plenty of rivers so good and great that it is a marvel. The lands thereof are high, and in it are very many ranges of hills and most lofty mountains incomparably beyond the island of Tenerife, all most beautiful in 1,000 shapes, and all accessible, and full of trees of 1,000 kinds, so lofty that they seem to reach the sky. And I am assured that they never lose their foliage, as may be imagined, since I saw them as green and as beautiful as they are in Spain during May. And some of them were in flower, some in fruit, some in another stage according to their kind. And the nightingale was singing, and other birds of 1,000 sorts, in the month of November, there where I was going. There are palm trees of 6 or 8 species, wondrous to see for their beautiful variety. But so are the other trees and fruits and plants therein. There are wonderful pine groves and very large plains of verdure, and there is honey, and many kinds of birds, and many various fruits. In the earth there are many mines of metals, and there is a population of incalculable number. Española is a marvel. The mountains and hills and plains and fields and the soil, so beautiful and rich for planting and sowing, for breeding cattle of all sorts, for building of towns and villages. There could be no believing without seeing such harbors as are here, as well as the many and great rivers and excellent waters, most of which contain gold. In the trees and fruits and plants there are great diversities from those of Juana. In this there are many spiceries and great mines of gold and other metals. The people of this island and of all the others that I have found and seen or not seen all go naked, men and women, just as their mothers bring them forth. Although some women cover a single place with the leaf of a plant, or cotton, something which they make for that purpose. They have no iron or steel, nor any weapons, nor are they fit thereunto, not because they be not a well-formed people and of fair stature, but that they are most wondrously timorous. They have no other weapons than the stems of reeds in their seating state, on the end of which they fix little sharpened stakes. Even these they dare not use, for many times has it happened that I sent 2 or 3 men ashore to some village to parley, and countless numbers of them sallied forth, but as soon as they saw those approach, they fled away in such wise that even a father would not wait for his son. And this was not because any hurt had ever been done to any of them. On the contrary, at every headland where I have gone and been able to hold speech with them, I gave them of everything which I had, as well cloth as many other things, without accepting aught therefore. But such they are, incurably timid. It is true that since they have become more assured, and are losing that terror, they are artless and generous with what they have, to such a degree as no one would believe but him who had seen it. Of anything they have, if it be asked for, they never say no, but do rather invite the person to accept it, and show as much lovingness as though they would give their hearts. And whether it be a thing of value, or one of little worth, they are straightways content with whatsoever trifle of whatsoever kind may be given them in return for it. I forbade that anything so worthless as fragments of broken platters, and pieces of broken glass, and strap buckles should be given them. Although when they were able to get such things, they seemed to think they had the best jewel in the world, for it was the hap of a sailor to get, in exchange for a strap, gold to the weight of 2.5 castellanos, and others much more for other things of far less value. While for new blancas they gave everything they had, even though it were the worth of 2 or 3 gold castellanos, or one or two arrobas of spun cup. They took even pieces of broken barrel hoops and gave whatever they had, like senseless brutes, insomuch that it seemed to me bad. I forbade it, and I gave gratuitously 1,000 useful things that I carried, in order that they may conceive affection, and furthermore may become Christians, for they are inclined to the love and service of their highnesses and of all the Castilian nation, and they strive to combine in giving us things which they have in abundance, and of which we are in need. And they knew no sect nor idolatry, save that they all believed that power and goodness are in the sky, and they believed very firmly that I, with these ships and crews, came from the sky. And in such opinion, they received me at every place where I landed after they had lost their terror. And this comes not because they are ignorant. On the contrary, they are men of very subtle wit, who navigate all those seas and who give a marvelously good account of everything, but because they never saw men wearing clothes nor the like of our ships. And as soon as I arrived in the Indies, in the first island that I found, I took some of them by force, to the intent that they should learn our speech and give me information of what there was in those parts. And so it was that very soon they understood us, and we them, what by speech or what by signs. And those Indians have been of much service. To this day I carry them with me, who are still of the opinion that I come from heaven, as appears from much conversation which they have had with me. And they were the first to proclaim it wherever I arrived, and the others went running from house to house, and to the neighboring villages, with loud cries of, "Come, come to see the people from heaven." Then, as soon as their minds were reassured about us, everyone came, men as well as women, so that there remained none behind, big or little, and they all brought something to eat and drink, which they gave with wondrous lovingness. They have in all the islands very many canoas, after the manner of rowing galleys, some larger, some smaller, and a good many are larger than a galley of 18 benches. They are not so wide, because they are made of a single log of timber, but a galley could not keep up with them in rowing, for their motion is a thing beyond belief. And with these they navigate through all those islands, which are numberless, and ply their traffic. I have seen some of those canoas with 70 and 80 men in them, each one with his oar. In all those islands I saw not much diversity in the looks of the people, nor in their manners and language. But they all understand each other, which is a thing of singular advantage for what I hope their highnesses will decide upon for converting them to our holy faith, unto which they are well disposed. I have already told how I had gone 107 leagues in a straight line from west to east along the sea coast of the island of Juana. According to which itinerary, I can declare that that island is larger than England and Scotland combined, as over and above those 107 leagues, there remained for me, on the western side, 2 provinces, whereto I did not go, one of which they call Avon, where the people are born with tails, which provinces cannot be less in length than 50 or 60 leagues, according to what may be understood from the Indians with me, who know all the islands. This other Española has a greater circumference than the whole of Spain from Colibri in Catalunya by the sea coast, as far as Fuenterrabia in Biscay. Since, along one of its 4 sides, I went for 188 great leagues in a straight line from west to east. This is a land to be desired, and once seen, never to be relinquished, in which, although indeed I have taken possession of them all for their highnesses, and all are more richly endowed than I have skill and power to say, and I hold them all in the name of their highnesses, who can dispose thereof as much and as completely as of the kingdoms of Castile. In this Española, in the place most suitable and best for its proximity to the gold mines, and for traffic with the mainland both on this side and with that over there belonging to the great Khan, where there will be great commerce and profit, I took possession of a large town, which I named the city of Navidad. And I have made fortification there, and a fort, which by this time will have been completely finished, and I have left therein men enough for such a purpose, with arms and artillery, and provisions for more than a year, and a boat, and a man who is master of all sea craft for making others, and great friendship with the king of that land, to such a degree that he prided himself on calling and holding me as his brother. And even though his mind might change towards attacking those men, neither he nor his people know what arms are, and go naked. As I have already said, they are the most timorous creatures there are in the world, so that the men who remain there are alone sufficient to destroy all that land, and the island is without personal danger for them if they know how to behave themselves. It seems to me that in all those islands the men are all content with a single wife, and to their chief or king they give as many as 20. The women, it appears to me, do more work than the men. Nor have I been able to learn whether they held personal property, for it seemed to me that whatever one had, they all took share of, especially of eatable things. Down to the present, I have not found in those islands any monstrous men, as many expected, but on the contrary, all the people are very comely. Nor are they black like those in Guinea, but have flowing hair, and they are not begotten where there is an excessive violence of the rays of the sun. It is true that the sun is there very strong, although it is 26 degrees distant from the equinoctial line. In those islands where there are lofty mountains, the cold was very keen there this winter, but they endure it by being accustomed thereto, and by the help of the meats which they eat with many and inordinately hot spices. Thus I have not found, nor had any information of monsters, except of an island which is here the second in the approach to the Indies, which is inhabited by a people whom in all the islands they regard as very ferocious, who eat human flesh. These have many canoes with which they run through all the islands of India and plunder and take as much as they can. They are no more ill-shapen than the others, but have the custom of wearing their hair long, like women, and they use bows and arrows of the same reed stems with a point of wood at the top, for lack of iron, which they have not. Amongst those other tribes who are excessively cowardly, these are ferocious, but I hold them as nothing more than the others. These are they who have to do with the women of Matanino, which is the first island that is encountered in the passage from Spain to the Indies, in which there are no men. Those women practice no female usages, but have bows and arrows of reed such as above mentioned, and they arm and cover themselves with plates of copper, of which they have much. In another island, which they assure me is larger than Española, the people have no hair. In this there is incalculable gold, and concerning these and the rest, I bring Indians with me as witnesses. And in conclusion, to speak only of what has been done in this voyage, which has been so hastily performed, their highnesses may see that I shall give them as much gold as they may need, with very little aid which their highnesses will give me, spices and cotton at once, as much as their highnesses will order to be shipped, and as much as they shall order to be shipped of mastic, which till now has never been found except in Greece, in the island of Chio, and the seigneury sells it for what it likes, and aloe wood as much as they shall order to be shipped, and slaves as many as they shall order to be shipped, and these shall be from idolaters. And I believe that I have discovered rhubarb and cinnamon, and I shall find that the men whom I am leaving there will have discovered 1,000 other things of value. As I made no delay at any point so long as the wind gave me an opportunity of sailing, except only in the town of Navidad, till I had left things safely arranged and well established. And in truth, I should have done much more if the ships had served me as well as might reasonably have been expected. This is enough. And thanks to eternal God our Lord, who gives to all those who walk his way victory over things which seem impossible. And this was signally one such, For although men have talked or written of those lands, it was all by conjecture, without confirmation from eyesight, amounting only to this much, that the hearers for the most part listened and judged that there was more fable in it than anything actual, however trifling. Since thus our Redeemer has given to our most illustrious King and Queen, and to their famous kingdoms, this victory in so high a matter, Christendom should have rejoicing therein, and make great festivals, and give solemn thanks to the Holy Trinity for the great exaltation they shall have by the conversion of so many peoples to our holy faith, and next for the temporal benefit which will bring hither refreshment and profit, not only to Spain, but to all Christians. This briefly, in accordance with the facts. Dated on the caravel off the Canary Islands, the 15th of February of the year 1493. At your command, the Admiral. Postscript which came within the letter. After having written this letter and being in the Sea of Castile, there rose upon me so much wind south and southeast that it has caused me to lighten the vessels. However, I ran hither today into this port of Lisbon, which was the greatest wonder in the world, where I decided to write to their highnesses. I have always found the seasons like May in all the Indies, whither I passed in 33 days, and returned in 28, but that these storms have delayed me 23 days running about this sea. All the seamen say here that there never has been so bad a winter, nor so many shipwrecks. Dated the 14th of March. Colum sent this letter to the Escrivano de Racion of the islands found in the Indies, received with another for their highnesses. Letter from Columbus to Ferdinand and Isabella concerning the colonization and commerce of Española. Most high and powerful lords, in obedience to what your highnesses command me, I shall state what occurs to me for the peopling and management of the Spanish island and of all others, whether already discovered or hereafter to be discovered, submitting myself, however, to any better opinion. In the first place, in regard to the Spanish island, that there should go there settlers up to the number of 2,000, who may want to go so as to render the possession of the country safer, and cause it to be more profitable and helpful in the intercourse and traffic with the neighboring islands. Likewise, that in the said island 3 or 4 towns be founded at convenient places, and the settlers be properly distributed among said places and towns. Likewise, in order to secure the better and prompter settlement of the said island, that the privilege of getting gold be granted exclusively to those who actually settle and build dwelling houses in the settlement where they may be, in order that all may live close to each other and more safely. Likewise, that in each place and settlement there be a mayor or mayors and a clerk according to the use and custom of Castile. Likewise, that a church be built, and that priests or friars be sent there for the administration of the sacraments, and for divine worship and the conversion of the Indians. Likewise, that no settler be allowed to go and gather gold unless with a permit from the governor or mayor of the town in which he lives, to be given only upon his promising under oath to return to the place of his residence and faithfully report all the gold which he may have gathered, this to be done once a month or once a week, as the time may be assigned to him, the said report to be entered on the proper registry by the clerk of the town in the presence of the mayor, and if so deemed advisable, in the presence of a friar or priest selected for the purpose. Likewise, in order to secure the better and prompter settlement of the said island, that the privilege of getting gold be granted exclusively to those who actually settle and build dwelling houses in the settlement where they may be, in order that all may live close to each other and more safely. Likewise, that in each place and settlement there be a mayor or mayors and a clerk according to the use and custom of Castile. Likewise, that a church be built, and that priests or friars be sent there for the administration of the sacraments, and for divine worship and the conversion of the Indians. Likewise, that no settler be allowed to go and gather gold unless with a permit from the governor or mayor of the town in which he lives, to be given only upon his promising under oath to return to the place of his residence and faithfully report all the gold which he may have gathered, this to be done once a month or once a week, as the time may be assigned to him, the said report to be entered on the proper registry by the clerk of the town in the presence of the mayor, and if so deemed advisable, in the presence of a friar or priest selected for the purpose. Likewise, that if the mayors and clerks commit any fraud or consent to it, the proper punishment be inflicted upon them, and that a penalty be likewise imposed upon those settlers who do not report in full the whole amount of the gold which is in their possession. Likewise, that there be a treasurer in the said island who shall receive all the gold belonging to your highnesses, and shall have a clerk to make and keep the proper record of the receipts, and that the mayors and clerks of the respective towns be given the proper vouchers for everything which they may deliver to the said treasurer. Likewise, that whereas the extreme anxiety of the colonists to gather gold may induce them to neglect all other business and occupations, it seems to me that prohibition should be made to them to engage in the search of gold during some season of the year, so as to give all other business profitable to the island an opportunity to be established and carried on. Likewise, that as far as the business of discovering other lands is concerned, it is my opinion that permission to do so should be given to everyone who desires to embark in it, and that some liberality should be shown in reducing the fifth to be given away, so as to encourage as many as possible for entering into such undertakings. And now I shall set forth my opinion as to the manner of sending vessels to the said Spanish island, and the regulation of this subject which must be made, which is as follows: that no vessels should be allowed to unload their cargoes except at 1 or 2 ports designated for that purpose, and that a record should be made of all that they carry and unload, and that no vessels should be allowed either to leave the island except from the same ports, after a record has been made also of all that they have taken on board, so that nothing can be concealed. Likewise, in regard to the gold to be brought from the island to Castile, that the whole of it, whether belonging to your highnesses or to some private individual, must be kept in a chest with 2 keys, one to be kept by the master of the vessel, and the other by some person chosen by the governor and the treasurer, and that an official record must be made of everything put in the said chest, in order that each one may have what is his, and that any other gold, much or little, found outside of the said chest in any manner be forfeited to the benefit of your highnesses, so as to cause the transaction to be made faithfully. Likewise, that all vessels coming from the said island must come to unload to the port of Cadiz, and that no person shall be allowed to leave the vessels or get in them until such person or persons of the said city as may be appointed for this purpose by your highnesses go on board the same vessels, to whom the masters must declare all that they have brought, and show the statement of everything they have in the cargoes, so that it may be seen and proved whether the said ships have brought anything hidden and not declared in the manifests at the time of shipment. And now I shall set forth my opinion as to the manner of sending vessels to the said Spanish island, and the regulation of this subject which must be made, which is as follows: that no vessels should be allowed to unload their cargoes except at 1 or 2 ports designated for that purpose, and that a record should be made of all that they carry and unload, and that no vessels should be allowed either to leave the island except from the same ports, after a record has been made also of all that they have taken on board, so that nothing can be concealed. Likewise, in regard to the gold to be brought from the island to Castile, that the whole of it, whether belonging to your highnesses or to some private individual, must be kept in a chest with 2 keys, one to be kept by the master of the vessel, and the other by some person chosen by the governor and the treasurer, and that an official record must be made of everything put in the said chest, in order that each one may have what is his, and that any other gold, much or little, found outside of the said chest in any manner be forfeited to the benefit of your highnesses, so as to cause the transaction to be made faithfully. Likewise, that all vessels coming from the said island must come to unload to the port of Cadiz, and that no person shall be allowed to leave the vessels or get in them until such person or persons of the said city as may be appointed for this purpose by your highnesses go on board the same vessels, to whom the masters must declare all that they have brought, and show the statement of everything they have in the cargoes, so that it may be seen and proved whether the said ships have brought anything hidden and not declared in the manifests at the time of shipment. Sent by the Admiral.